So hello, today our topic is crowd management by Cellular automata. And we are, our group is Antipova Anna, Bejanidze Elena, Dik Daria, Ignatovich Anastasia, Kolesnikova Katerina. Today we will discuss about crowd management problems. We will introduce briefly to Cellular automata. We will explain why Cellular automata, implications. We will talk about future work and references. Smart information systems such as big data and artificial intelligence are used by governments to improve mobility, reduce overcrowding in hotspots, and provide more effective management of crowds. The increasing availability of tremendous amounts of data generated by people, vehicles, and things have provided unprecedented opportunities for understanding human behavior in the urban environment. At the same time, crowd management systems can benefit city planning, emergency control, and mobile network design. Nowadays, modern technologies are enabling and widening the connectivity possibilities all over the world. Furthermore, during the forthcoming years, we will witness of a new era in which a vast majority of the traffic will be produced by machine-to-machine communications. According to SciScope, IoT, also known as Internet of Things devices, will represent half of the internet connections worldwide, with a total of 14 billion IoT connections by 2022. Certainly, such massive deployment of IoT devices will have a positive impact in multiple domains, being the smart city paradigm, one of the application areas that has attracted more attention. At present, IoT-based technologies are already transforming traditional public service, such as urban planning, lighting, or waste management, just to name a few.
So we know, with respect to the representation of space and macroscopic model, there are two basic approaches. First of all, it's discrete, and the second one is continuous. One special class of the discrete models are the so-called cellular automata, CA models. So cellular automata is a bi-inspired parallel compositional models of self-reproducing organisms, and it can capture the essential features of systems where global behavior arises from the collective effect of simple components which interact locally. And this aspect can have been considered as a fine candidate to model pedestrian behavior and crowd dynamics in a fine manner. So in specific, for crowd modeling, the CA models show evidence of macroscopic nature with the microscopic extensions. So they provide adequate details in the description of human behavior and interaction, whilst they retain the compositional cost at lowest levels. And we knew that quite recently an evacuation system was proposed based on an accurate CA model capable of assessing the human behavior during emergency situations, takes advantage of the simulation output to provide sufficient information to a model robotic guide, which in turn guides people towards a less congestive exit in a time. So then, please, next slide. Why cellular automata? The field of pedestrian movement has received growing interest over the last decades. This is due to the several reasons. And it's simple for us to understand the first reason. It's growing mobility. Even if walking is not the most important form of locomotion, when the distance covered is considered, it's necessary for every other form of traveling. For example, walking to the bus, the car, or to the airport terminal. And it is probably the most time-intensive form of mobility. So simulations can help to increase the level of comfort and decrease waiting times by assessing alternative flights and purchases. The second reason is large facilities like them parks and shopping centers are usually populated by a large number of people. In densely packed crowds, high pressure can occur that pose a threat on people's health. So this requires detailed planning of the walkways and crowd management to avoid such dangerous situations. Thirdly, even events like, as we know, rock concerts or like sport matches often attract a huge number of people. And to manage this situation, a profound knowledge of the laws of crowd motion is necessary. Scientific research is one tool to gain this knowledge, which can be used to channel flows, make them more homogeneous. Increase capacity by decreasing orientation problems or holding back persons to avoid peak flows in critical areas. So then, in case of an emergency, buildings or passenger vessels have to be evacuated within a short time span under stress condition. So simulations help to improve the building or vessel layout and to optimize the evacuation performance. And finally, crowd motion is an important topic in the investigation of group dynamics. The potential areas of application are again numerous, such as we know, buildings, urban systems like pedestrian crossings, shopping malls, theme parks, airport, and etc. Then.
Okay, so we believe that cellular automata is not just a mathematical model, but a whole solving problem methodology. And methodology consists of 6 particular steps. Let us discuss those steps. First, observation. So we have a situation, for example, the creation situation or flash mob situation, and we want to improve it, to make it better. Secondly, most of all, we need some psychological factors, physical and social goals of people of which this group that we want to improve or making more efficient consists. Thirdly, we would like to build a model including cellular automata. What does it mean? It means that we find some most important factors and we express them in a behavioral manner. For example, I want to buy this thing, then I will go towards this thing to buy it. And we have 3 or 4 rules for each agent to behave. 4, observed model behavior. So we now have a number of agents. These agents perform several rules that we have conducted to them, and we have an environment. Environment is very specific and very important for our model because it's precisely environment that we'd like to change in a real world situation. And so we observe model behavior, and then we change the environment and the rules of the people to behave to see if this will make our model more efficient and it will make crowd management more efficient. And then finally, we find the best environment for crowd management. We also may change the rule for people to behave we may put signs to say them, don't go this way, go this way, or we may add some doors or some corridors for the environment to not to conduct some panic situations, or it doesn't matter. We may have different goals, and we may change environment for that and people's rule behavior for that. And so finally, please next slide. We would like to introduce to you some basic implications of cellular automata approach. First one is the most popular one, I believe. This is flash mob. So one of the main goals of flash mob is to make more people do the same thing, maybe for fun, or maybe it's a protest rally and you want it to be successful and you want to invite more people to it. So cellular automata approach may answer this question: how to put main figures on streets, on the scene, to make more people want to move like them. This is a very specific problem, and it's very interesting. It's only one option to use cellular automata because you can see in which position we should put figures to make more people do the same thing. The next slide, please. Okay, the second one is museum environment. For example, you have topic art object, and you don't want people make huge crowds around it, not to break the art object, and you want to make people flow more understandable, more predictable. And this one thing can be done by Cellular automata. For example, as you see on this kind of group flow diagram, you can predict in which way the crowd flow will go. And you may change it by changing the way your environment looks. For example, you can make this main art object in the end or in the middle of your exposition, or you may create some walls around it to prevent crowd chaotic group behavior. And the next slide, please. Okay, this is like the most obvious one, it's evacuation. As you see on this amazing GIF, people are running towards one door, they're panicking, and they're like hitting each other. Like, yeah, this is an amazing GIF, thanks to Daria. They are not evacuating successfully. That's the point. And you can see it precisely on this Cellular automata diagram on the left side. And just by simply adding more doors, we can save these people successfully. And this is for Cellular automata R4. But to be more specific, I would like to introduce my colleague Ekaterina. She will explain how precisely these models work. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'd like to tell you about the modeling pedestrian and crowd dynamics. It's better to begin with a description of this method. And this is important for understanding that the scope and limitations of the model, it is intended to cover the movement of crowds of humans within complex geometries based on signage, but excluding special behavioral characteristics. For example, like the formation of groups or the decision whether or not to follow the exit signs. Furthermore, it's intended to simulate evacuation processes. And in this context, route choice is not a topic. The routes are assumed to be predetermined in the sense that all persons follow the given rules. For example, the direct way to the exit. Of course, fire and hazards are important in evacuations. However, they are not included in the model due to its focus on the movement. And if fire would be included, then the model would become by far more complex. So the dynamics can be represented by a cellular automaton and spatially and temporally discrete model. So this is based on the assumption that there is a finite reaction time and that in crowded areas, the space is used efficiently to avoid blockage. And for reasons stated above, cellular automata, which are based on discrete space and time, they are a sufficient model for the theory of crowd movement. And the movement algorithm for a single pedestrian, it consists of a part concerning the determination of the direction and a part including stopping and swaying. And first, we should understand that the influence of the distance kept by pedestrians is addressed. Does a pedestrian block all the sails he's using during one time step? If a pedestrian blocks all the sails, then the person walking behind him automatically keeps a distance that is proportional to the walking speed of his predecessor. Secondly, I'd like to tell about a two-dimensional cellular automaton model for crowd motion. And egress stimulations are not solely based on the dynamics of crowd movement, but have to take into account further aspects like response time. When considering evacuation scenarios, the number of influences and parameters increases, and how this number of influences, of additional influences, of course, can be quantified, and how simulations can be validated and used to access evacuation processes, that's what we're going to talk about. The case of emergency situations is special with respect to the crowd movement compared to normal situations, of course, and since it includes additional factors. This can be seen from the following equation, which you can see. So T egress is equal to T awareness plus T response and plus T walk. The simulations presented here are mainly aiming at reproducing what could also be outcome of an evacuation exercise. Therefore, they focus on the action stage. This is also consistent with not explicitly modeling psychological aspects. However, they are, of course, represented indirectly by quantifying their average influence on the movement or behavior. Um, for movement through doors, there are only a few empirical data. Since the opening and closing of doors is not explicitly modeled, there is a reduction factor for movement through doors. And the important point is that for an egress simulation, which you can see on the right side of the slide, there is a termination criterion, which in the fact that all persons have reached a so-called rescue cell, exit, embarkation, and so on and so forth. So this means that no fatalities are simulated, and the connection between the single elements and influences that are relevant in evacuation, they are following exactly in that figure. And moreover, future work on using neural nets, we can say that nowadays, you can see it on the graph, that it shows a significant decrease in the number of articles about cellular automatas approach nowadays. It happens to many reasons, but mainly due to the ubiquity of neural nets and the difficulty of the original theme. So, in a nutshell, we need to draw attention to cellular automata. And these are our references. And thank you very much for your attention.